You're listening to Estrogen Dropouts.
Hey guys, welcome back to Estrogen Dropouts. I'm your host, Erin.
And I'm your other host, Elizabeth. And today we're going to be talking about the topic, the death of the expert era, and why we trust strangers on social media and social media influencers more than we trust actual specialists. So this topic got brought to my attention by my husband, actually, who was listening to a podcast all about the death of the expert era. And I did some digging on social media and I realized I wouldn't say this is a trend. This is actually something that is happening where people are putting less trust in medical, like doctors and therapists and people with actual degrees, and putting more trust in influencers or just people that they know or they believe they trust or know online. Anyway, Erin, what do you think about all of this?
Yeah, so like lay people, I do think that this is a more modern development. I think that definitely like in maybe more of a younger generation, because I think about like my mom's generation, like they never questioned their doctors. They never questioned what was, just the general like consensus of things. And I also did a lot of digging too and research on this when we were talking about it, about doing an episode on this. And I found there's a book that's relatively new. It's by a gentleman by the name of Tom Nichols, and it's called The Death of Expertise, The Campaign Against Established Knowledge and Why It Matters. And in his like preface, he had this really great, intro. And I wanted to read a little bit of it so people can kind of understand what we're talking about if they're still kind of like, what do you mean the death of the expert? He says, well, expertise isn't dead. However, it's in trouble. Something is going terribly wrong. The United States is now a country obsessed with the worship of its own ignorance. It's not just that people don't know a lot about science or politics or geography. They don't, but that's an old problem. And really, it's not even a problem insofar as we live in a society that works because of a division of labor, a system designed to relieve each of us of having to know about everything. Pilots fly airplanes, lawyers file lawsuits, doctors prescribe medication. None of us is a Da Vinci painting the Mona Lisa in the morning and designing helicopters at night. That's as it should be. No, the bigger problem is that we're proud of not knowing things. Americans have reached a point where ignorance, especially of anything related to public policy, is an actual virtue. To reject the advice of experts is to assert autonomy, a way for Americans to insulate their increasingly fragile egos from ever being told they're wrong about anything. It is a new declaration of independence. No longer do we hold these truths to be self-evident. We hold all truths to be self-evident, even the ones that aren't true. All things are knowable, and every opinion on any subject is as good as any other. So this might be unique more to the West, to the United States, maybe the North America, his book certainly implies that this is an American phenomenon, maybe not so much in other countries. And I know we have listeners from around the world, so maybe they aren't experiencing this type of thing where they live, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it used to be that expertise was kind of gate kept. Like if we wanted knowledge about our health, we had to go to a doctor. If you want tax advice, you have to go to a tax attorney or a financial planner or something like that, or an accountant. But now, with the explosion of TikTok, which if you are not on TikTok, you are still watching TikToks because they are transferred over onto Instagram and Facebook platforms consistently. I see things now on those two platforms that I saw a year ago on TikTok. So there's just a lag time on Instagram or Facebook, but TikTok truly is a teaching platform. And where it started as a dance platform in 2020, it very quickly by 2022 was a teaching platform. And so sure, there's still dance trends for like the people interested in that, but most of it is a teaching platform. And so when you have people that want to share their beliefs and here's the thing, influence is not expertise. And I think that we are confusing the two. And I think it's really just like a downfall in the system. I think it points to a greater flaw. We are trusting influencers on social media who have health as a hobby opposed to our doctors. But I also think that this is a problem because we're only getting 15 minutes with our doctors. And so really can't connect. And so when you see a person showing up daily, showing you how they eat, how they live, and they seemingly look very healthy. However, they have no PhD, but you are going to be more inclined, or at least we have become more inclined to follow that person, the lay person with not even a PhD. I'm talking about like they've never been to school for nutrition, fitness, had any type of like learning for it, and they're just figuring it out as they go, and they're putting it on social media, and we're following them before we're seeking out an expert. I think because we feel connection. We're looking for connection, is what I think.
A therapeutic encounter when you have a connection with the person. Like, for instance, I went to my GYN yesterday. She's actually a nurse practitioner, and she doesn't just come in and like say, okay, get your legs up in the stirrups and we're going to do a pap smear. She asked me how I've been, what's going on, what's new in life, which is why I have a heart for nurse practitioners. I have a lot of respect for doctors, don't get me wrong. But doctors are definitely, I think, stretched thin. And so when you feel like somebody is actually cares about you, even if you get bad news, even if it doesn't, even if it's like a procedure that might not be the most comfortable, which I mean, any woman that has had a gynecological exam knows that it's very, just, I don't want to say it's uncomfortable. It's just, you're just spread eagle,
Vulnerable.
right? Yeah, that's the word I was looking for that I couldn't find. It's a very vulnerable experience.
Yeah.
But I think that what happens is that sometimes and I'm a really big believer in trusting your intuition, your gut. Right. I mean, I've shared the story many times about how when I had my breast cancer I went to the radiation oncologist and she's like, we're going to do 33 rounds of radiation. And then I went to the medical oncologist and she was like, you're going to do 10 years of tamoxifen. And I was like, no, I'm not doing any of that. And I did the lumpectomy and I went against medical advice for the other things. And here I am, like, 12 years later, completely fine. But I did a lot of research to find out. But is that when we have these things that maybe we have biases. So for instance, what I can think of is like vaccines. There's a lot of negativity around vaccines. Vaccines are poison, they're this or that. And I do agree that our kids today are over vaccinated. Personally, I feel if I had a baby today, I would do a delayed vaccine schedule where they're not getting 4 vaccines at once. I mean, because even since, my oldest is about to be 32, my youngest is 23, the vaccine schedule has gotten even more intense since they were little. But then it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Vaccines have eradicated polio, smallpox. They had eradicated measles and mumps essentially, but that we've seen a resurgence in that in recent months because people are choosing
People
not
aren't getting
to vaccinate.
vaccinated. So yeah,
Right.
if you don't get vaccinated,
And people say,
that's
well,
the problem.
right. And I think that we, vaccines have saved more lives, I think, than they have impacted negatively. And I do think that vaccines can have the potential for negative impact. If you have a child that has a poor diet, poor methylation, poor detox pathways, they could have a reaction. My middle son had a pretty severe reaction to MMR vaccination, and we actually had to make a file a report with the CDC, and they documented it because he got like a full body rash, for several days, fever. Not just the typical, like where they feel kind of cranky for a little while. But I think it's because we also, when somebody is an influencer, right, which they have a platform, it's like when they basically align with your bias, you're going to buy in. You have buy-in because you're like, well, Mary from social media is telling me that vaccines are, terrible. They're full of mercury, which it's been all taken out of vaccines. It's all the bad things that are mixed in vaccines. And so I'm not going to vaccinate my kid at all. Instead of being selective and saying, okay, I do think that maybe the vaccine schedule is a bit much for a baby. So maybe instead I'll do like a delayed vaccine schedule, or maybe I'll pick and choose. Like I want to have, the polio vaccine for my kid because I don't want them ending up in the iron lung, right? We don't hear about iron lungs anymore. It's like, but in the, 50s, kids were put in iron lungs. And so with the information age, with information at our fingertips and wrong information at our fingertips, as well as right information at our fingertips, it makes it very easy to shore up any belief that you have, because you can find both sides of the coin anywhere you look on the internet, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it doesn't even just I think when we talk about vaccines, that's a really good, solid way to, I don't know, to narrate this, because I feel like I'm right in the middle. I do believe, like you, I believe we over vaccinate, and especially infants, but I also believe there's a place for them. But the truth is, I'm not the expert. And I also don't trust the FDA. I don't trust our medical system. And so when you're only getting like 20 minutes with a doctor, and then they're just programmed to recite things that I feel like big pharma is telling them, I feel like we are all just kind of at a loss. We don't really know how to navigate this. And this is true not only in medicine, it's true in political scandals. We don't have any trust in our government anymore. All of our Congress can literally take money from big companies, and they can do stocks, and they can do they can invest and do all these things that gives them a financial interest in how they vote, which is insane to me. We literally voted in a man twice that has no political background at all, just because we are so anti-politicians. And I'm not saying we as in me, I for the record did not vote for him. However, I'm just saying it as a whole, we as a country, everybody is tired of the traditional politician. They don't trust them. We don't trust medical staff. We don't know who we can trust. And so I feel like we are at a breaking point in our country. Like, something has got to change. I mean, there needs to be, we cannot continue, because we can't continue on this path of 50-year-old research. Just the same thing as what we're doing right now with menopause breakthrough with estrogen, how they said 50 years ago, we could not even 50 years ago, our moms thought they couldn't take estrogen. And now here we are taking it. There is just such a lack of growth mindset in the systems. The system is broken I feel like across everything, it's just broken, and it's making us desperate for knowledge. We want to know more. And so we're seeking out people who are not experts, and who it's kind of like a crapshoot. Maybe they know what they're talking about, maybe they don't, but we're willing to take a risk and try it because we know for sure we don't trust the system as is.
Right. And that's the thing. The thing is that using discernment as an individual, I think that there like TikTok. I have a friend, who is like, I saw it on TikTok, this and that on TikTok. And I do think that there is a lot of good information out there, but I think you have to use your discernment to kind of look
People don't have good
to see
discernment.
what
That does not help.
and it's like when somebody's like, especially if you're a person who's because since we're talking about health things, if you've lived in chronic pain, let's just say that you have fibromyalgia or rheumatoid arthritis, and then you come across somebody, and I know what you've said. I'm not a TikToker. Personally, I don't get on there unless you send me a TikTok or one of my other friends sends me a funny TikTok and I watch.
But you watch
I don't.
Reels, and I'm telling you, it's the same stuff.
Well, I don't even really watch. Well, I guess I watch Reels if they come up, but most of the time I don't. It's funny. I'm like, I don't like. I usually don't even watch stories, and I post a story for the podcast every week, and I'm like, but people watch stories. I'm a little bit weird. I don't like certain things, but I do know that you've said that TikTok is the smartest algorithm of the social media platforms, that it caters to exactly what you want more of it. I mean, I think YouTube is similar, because if you watch one thing that, let's say, mature eyeshadow or eyeshadow hacks for mature women, if I watch one YouTube video on that, then on the sidebar, a dozen more will pop up that will it's telling me. It's kind of like Amazon does that too, which is a little bit backwards. I'll buy something. Let's say I bought some little stackable things for my bathroom to put underneath the counter. Organizational bins is the word. Then Amazon will send me an email you might like these. I'm like, did you not see I purchased them? I purchased already. I'm moving on past organizational bins. Now I'm looking for, something else. But anyhow, so because it tailors your viewing, it's going to just continually edify whatever it is that you believe. So if you're I think that vaccines are harmful, and you watch one person on TikTok that tells you that, then you're just going to keep seeing 1,000 other people that tell you that. But if you watched pro-vaccination a person that was like, vaccines have saved lives. They've eradicated smallpox and polio in the world. And then you're going to start seeing that. So it's just basically like speaking into a void or an echo chamber where you're hearing exactly what you want, what you already believe mirrored back to you. It's spoken back to you like, yes, vaccines are terrible.
100%. How do we know what to do? Because there really is, it's like you say, listen to your discernment. Well, I have to tell you, I don't think mine is very good with a lot of things because, things that maybe I don't have any knowledge in. It's the reason I never speak about politics. It's not because I don't have strong opinions. It's because they're not super educated, right? They're not like, I don't have any training on this. I don't have any classes. I don't really know how the system works when you break it down. I know some very generalized things, but I'm not about to speak on my platform about something I don't know about, or even to my sphere of influence, not even my friends or something like that, because I'm not qualified. So, and I feel the same way about medical stuff. So whenever I start seeing a medical person or like a fitness person, talking, I have no idea. Like I just listen. And so it's like you have discernment. I mean, sometimes we just don't have it in that area. In other areas, I might have it.
Well, I think though the important thing is, so let's say so my friend saw a reel that said that, I think it was boric acid was going to like, do something for her. And I'm so if I saw that and let's say I had fibromyalgia. Let's say I had fibromyalgia and I'm like, I live in chronic pain. Things are so tough. And I'm like on TikTok and I see somebody that says that, apple cider vinegar is going to cure me of fibromyalgia. And then I'm going to like look at, okay, here's the benefits of apple cider vinegar. Here's the cons of apple cider vinegar, and then I'm going to like okay, is this a good fit for me or not? I guess it's just, it takes you, when I say discernment too, it's just like looking further into it, not just taking maybe what someone is telling you as the gospel and like, so it puts the onus on you to do the research beyond what that person is telling you. I mean, even your doctor, if your doctor's like, which I mean, we've done episodes on this. We know medical gaslighting, they just don't want to listen. They don't have the time. I think sometimes demonize doctors. And when I do think that a lot of them are trying to do their best in the system, the way that it's set up, but it really is like our responsibility to investigate. I mean, so that may mean that you need to look up PubMed articles or the NIH and see studies because doctors go off of peer-reviewed studies. Like they don't just go, well, my great aunt cured her warts with onion juice or whatever, and there are old wives' tales. I mean, onion juice on your scalp can regrow your hair, but it's the sulfide or whatever, the sulfur stuff in it, the sulfur compound. So it actually has a medical, it's steeped in actually like chemistry. But so, yeah, it just puts a great responsibility on ourselves. And I think that's where we fail oftentimes is we don't want to put the responsibility on ourselves because we do want to rely on other people to be able to like make the decision for us, even with politics. And I'm with you. I know how politics, I know the three, the three, what are they even called? I'm like drawing a blank on like, you have to legislate the three branches. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know Constitution. I mean, I know the basic general understanding when you take political science in high school and in college, but like, it's such a big machine to even try to break it down. I don't think politicians probably understand, the full like mechanisms, especially behind the government. I mean, it's just so much like this hand and doing, something behind the back and then it's too much. So, then because that is too much, then we have to find people that have similar maybe mindsets, values, morals as us. And then they've done more of the research, and then so that it takes us like, we have the responsibility to find the people who know more than us that we agree with and then let them kind of help guide us. Yeah, I don't know what the actual solution is to this. I didn't know we were going to try to solve it.
I know. Well, on politics or what's happening in the government, I've started to follow years ago, like 5 years ago or something. Her name is the News Girl, and you have no idea. what political affiliation she is. She only reports the facts. And only whenever it's not like rumor mill or Trump said this said this, only whenever it's being voted on and what the outcome is. And like whenever I used to watch her with Biden, I was sure she was a Republican. Now that I'm watching her with Trump, I'm sure she's a Democrat. And I think that I have no idea what she really is, but the point being, I think she's probably finding faults in both sides. And so that's coming across with no matter who the president is, but it's not really opinion based. Sometimes in her tone, that's why I'm like, you're this, I can guess, but I really don't know. And so she just reports facts. She is very good. But I like seeing more doctors get on social media and talk about like what's happening, like Dr. Marie Haver, whatever. I don't know what she is. She's a big menopause doctor. I like hearing from her because some things she's like, we just don't know yet, or this is what the research is showing you. I appreciate the honesty and the candor and stuff. So I'm really hoping that more doctors jump on social media but also I'm really hopeful that A can help with this. Like I'm really hopeful that maybe people can put because it answers so quickly. And so like I think that's a part of the problem with people doing research on their own is that they don't feel like Googling and reading articles and doing all of the breakdown. So if it's something as big as vaccinating your kids, your babies or something like that, what are the facts? Like you can put it in. What are the facts? What are the absolute vaccines I should get? And now, yes, AI can be wrong. So I have 3 different
For
AI
sure.
engines, and I often will check against each one and see if the answer is the same across all 3 or if they're giving me different answers. But I mean, I don't know what else. I don't know what the answer is, but I do think it's an interesting trend that we have been moving towards. And I think the system needs to be rebuilt. So hopefully, I believe that it is breaking down now and it has to break down to be rebuilt.
Yeah, for sure. I also think that one thing that has kind of precipitated this as opposed to like, 50, 60 years ago is 24-hour news and entertainment. Like it's like there's not, if you think about even when we were growing up, like we didn't have the access to information, news channels 24/7, where this is a little bit off topic, but how it's now, I think that's why we're so stressed out because we can know about everything happening everywhere, every bad thing, because usually the news highlights the bad things. And it's like, so you hear about the tornado in so-and-so, the landslide here, this, this fighting, this. And then it's just like, holy cow, it makes you just feel like the whole world is just a complete shit show. And you start getting like going down maybe a negative, like a really negative mindset, like everybody's evil, everybody's out for themselves. And I feel like, if you're away from that, and you're just living your everyday life, I usually find that there's a brighter outlook than the news and the media portrays. Do you think?
Yeah, and I think like even though we oftentimes might have polarizing views with things like, obviously politics or medical, things like vaccinations or to mask up or not, like we oftentimes have polarizing views with those things. However, the underlying sentiment is the same. It's that we want to know the truth. It's like we want to know the truth and we are willing to seek it out through alternative sources on social media just because we want to hear from someone that we find trustworthy and we're digging and we're looking ourselves. So I just have to hope that, I don't know, something will come of it. Well, do you have anything else you want to add about that or can I share like a hot topic?
Well, I was going to say one thing that I do find interesting is when the astronauts when they went to the moon or orbited the moon recently, and how many people on my Facebook who believe it's all a hoax, that they can't leave the atmosphere because in the Bible it says something about the firmament and that they think all of this is like, the flat earthers basically and I'm like, I'm like, huh. I'm
And
like,
I
what?
literally
Like,
just,
I mean, I am a conspiracy theorist.
sorry, there's that lag. I don't know why it's lagging.
Wait, say it again.
I don't know why it's
I
lagging
don't
because it's like you
know.
had stopped and then, anyway, go ahead.
But so I'm like, I just wonder, like, I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart. I do think like as far as the FDA, the food industry, I know all of the stuff that, I mean, I've read about the things that go on behind the scenes, like to make food more palatable and make it addictive, blah, blah, blah. What Monsanto, now it's, owned by Bayer or whatever, does to the seeds. But I'm like, some things I'm like, I just have a hard time believing that we haven't left our atmosphere. Anyways, that's just my belief. I'm like, flat earthers, it kind of trips me out.
Yeah, and I actually spoke with someone this weekend who literally has a master's and is like very intelligent, and he doesn't believe in dinosaurs, and he just believes like doesn't believe in evolution. He believes in Adam and Eve. And here's like my thing. And I even said, I'm like, we literally have fossils, we have bones from dinosaurs, and he said he thinks that they were created by the government to as a conspiracy theory. So like, I just think like
But you're
people
like,
can
to
believe
what
what they
end?
want.
Like, what?
Yeah, what's the purpose of that? Like, I don't know, but I just think people can believe what they want. However, I don't understand why two things can't be true. Like why you can't believe in Jesus and dinosaurs. Like why can't you like I guess because the Bible said that we came from I still think I don't know. I just think whenever science proves something different, you have to look at it with fresh eyes.
So years ago, yeah, my youngest was dinosaur obsessed, and we went to a friend of his house for like a dinner, and they had another neighbor over who they were super religious. They homeschooled their kids. And I grew up super religious, so I'm not, but they didn't believe in dinosaurs. And so Hayden's talking to the little boy. He's probably 7 at the time, and he's talking about dinosaurs because that was all he talked about for like 10 years. He just talked about dinosaurs 24/7. And the kid's like, dinosaurs aren't real. And Hayden's like, I have a T-Rex fossil at home. I have an Ankylosaurus spine fossil at home. And the kid's like, oh no, those were created by the government. But I'm like, why would the government go to all that trouble to create these fossils to like make us believe in dinosaurs? I don't know. So I just told Hayden, I was like, look, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But just because you have an opinion doesn't mean it's correct. So just because he doesn't believe in dinosaurs, because that's what he's been taught because of his religion, it doesn't mean that it's correct. It's just what he believes. And we know they've done carbon dating on fossils, and, they can tell that, they're 30 million years old, 50 million years old, however many millions of years old they are. Yeah, that's interesting that people say that they don't and doesn't believe in evolution. I'm like, actually, you don't have to believe in evolution for it to be true because, evolution is happening all the time. I know he's referring to that we didn't evolve from apes or that we didn't come from the sea, but it's like species are adapting and evolving all the time. Evolution is an actual thing. Like you can't not believe in evolution.
That's what I think. I mean, it surprises me. I'm like, okay. I mean, what do you say to that? I can't say anything because it's like so okay. I don't know.
No, but you're also like interesting, like beliefs. Like, like, okay, good for you. I don't, yeah, I don't get it at all. So, but yeah, I think that basically, as far as the death of the expert, we've had lots of experts on this podcast. We've had people who have shared their expertise in whatever, in a variety of topics. And, I just think that, we just have to be really careful that we don't let our own biases and ego get in the way of helping us find the truth. But also, I think sometimes, like, if you believe in something enough that, say, for instance, like when I was saying the apple cider vinegar to like help you with your apple cider vinegar that could help you with the fibromyalgia symptoms. I definitely believe in the placebo effect. So if you were taking apple cider vinegar every day and you're like, this is making me feel so much better, and you believe it, it has a positive effect on you because our brains are so gullible. They definitely will. I've read a great book called Mind Over Medicine that was all about the placebo effect. It's a really fantastic read by Lisa Rankin, a physician. And she did so much research for this book, like, interviewed people who had been told they had, or not just interviewed them because some people were dead, but man that was told he had stage 4 cancer throughout his entire body. Literally, he was dead within a couple weeks. And when they did an autopsy, he had no cancer in his body. It was a mistake. But because he had that belief that, oh gosh, I have stage 4, cancer, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if somebody says like, I think that you are going to be fine, that this is going to be a footnote in your medical chart, you will internalize that. That's why I was talking about having a positive therapeutic encounter with a, clinician or a practitioner.
Yeah. Mine keeps saying reconnecting. Have I been on the whole time?
You're very, it's like you're buffered. You're very blurry the whole time. Am I blurry to you?
No. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I think something, because I felt like that happened. So I don't have anything else to add. So we can
Wrap it up, or do you want me to share a hot topic?
do you have anything else to add? Let's share a hot topic. So, but I'll say that's all I have. Do you have anything else to add on this? And you could say no. And then you say, but I have a hot topic for you. So,
okay.
So do you have anything else to add to the death of the expert? Any last thoughts?
Don't, but I do have a hot topic. Now, it's not anything super juicy, but it is something I think really important to get out there. So I was speaking with a friend this weekend, and she cares for her elderly parent. And her elderly parent has been a victim of multiple fraud cases. So I think we just need to keep an eye on our parents. So somehow multiple times someone has gotten a hold of her elderly mom's phone number and called her and told her various different things. And every time her mom believes them and complies. She's given away her social security number over the phone. She's written checks. And my friend, when she went last week to see her mom, she saw $350. She was in the middle of writing a $350 check. And she said, "Mom, where are you writing that to?" And she's like, "Well, I'm writing it to pay my social security benefits." And she had an address she was mailing it to. And my friend was like, "Mom, you don't pay into it. They're paying you." And then she looked through her checkbook, and she had written multiple $350 checks and was sending it somewhere. So it's crazy. So I just think to me, that's an important piece that we just need to get out there. These scammers, I know that somebody's called me from an ambulance. I have a half sister. She's much older than me. And somebody called me from the ambulance asking for money, saying she was in a car accident and I had to pay the ambulance fees for them to take her to the hospital. And I had to give them my bank account so they could wire it. I was like, I knew that was a scam, but sometimes elderly people don't. And then I know somebody else whose elderly mother sent $10,000 to a man in Africa, thinking that she was in a long-term relationship with him, and she was paying for him to come to the States to be with her. And this was over several months through Facebook Messenger. And yeah, so that's a big thing.
Yeah, so I think we could end up doing a whole episode on elder fraud. I mean, it's just so imperative that we keep our elderly safe from these predators. I know that they prey on them because, for one thing, they trust people that call them on the phone, and then they also oftentimes don't think as clearly, and they get them rattled, and so they just do whatever the person on the phone is telling them. So, but yeah, so hopefully you guys learned something about the death of the expert. We would definitely love to hear from you on how you decipher information and figure out the truth for yourself. Make sure that you have hit the follow button on the podcast so that you can stay in the loop. Whenever we release a new episode each week, it'll come straight to your podcast platform and be ready for you to listen.
And we would greatly appreciate it if you leave us some stars and a positive review, just so that we can get some more traction going here. Give us a follow on Instagram, TikTok, and you can watch full versions on YouTube. And we will see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
This has been a production of Estrogen Dropouts, LLC.